Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I am Coach Celestestacey, and I uncover hidden truths for a living. I help people navigate that tricky intersection of facts and feelings that can trip a lot of us up and confuse us and lead us astray and steal our peace of mind and our joy. And today I am going to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I suffer from it. And it is what I call chronic obesity. Chronic obesity is having more excess fat on your body more often than you don't. So that includes if you may have lost a significant amount of weight on a diet or doing something, but eventually it all crept back and sometimes plus more, and you find yourself having more excessive fat on your body more often than you don't. The population that this impacts most, which is why I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm fat, is African-American women. So 4 out of 5 Black women are fat or obese. And the first time I became aware of this statistic is in a Kevin Samuels video. So if you're like me, you're one of those people who, after Kevin Samuels passed away, may he rest in peace, started watching some of the videos. And one of those videos, I remember being offended with every single time a woman asked a question, he would answer the question with, well, what is your dress size? How tall are you? How much do you weigh? And I found that very offensive. But I think he was trying to make a point. I think he was trying to say, most of the time, a lot of African-American women are obese, heavier than the norm. And I think in even one case, he compared one woman to a football player because of how much she weighed and what her height was. And it bothered me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to look into this a little bit more. I started researching. I saw all these various YouTube videos about it. The conversation has been going on for decades. But I said, you know what? I'm going to do my own experiment. So I went outside and I counted myself as having more excessive fat more often than I don't. And I went outside and I tried to count up to 5. Okay. I said, okay, how many African-American women can I count who do not have excessive fat on their bodies? So I got up to 1, I got up to 2. Sometimes I couldn't get up to 3. Sometimes I couldn't get up to 4. More often than not, I never got up to 5 in a row who were not fat. Okay, so I said, this is an issue, and it was bothering me so badly. And I started researching more, and people were talking about, and everything they were talking about, doing this deep analysis about, the roots of diet and the foods that our ancestors used and things like that. And again, before I continue, if you are not a Black woman, if you're not a woman, that's okay. If you suffer from body image issues and you suffer from chronic obesity, please continue to watch, because this is for you too, because it all boils down to one thing that we're going to talk about. And I started listening to all of these people analyzing the situation, talking about, the roots of the foods of our ancestors. And I was like, well, that can't be it. I don't eat macaroni and cheese and fried chicken and, all those heavy foods, except for like once or twice a year, like Thanksgiving and Christmas. I don't eat those foods every day. Can't be that. Then they started talking about stress and heads of household, and all those factors can come into it, sure. But nobody was talking about the underlying root cause. Nobody was talking about the intersection between those facts and also the feelings about them. Well, maybe it's because I like being that way. Maybe it's because I'm big boned. Maybe this is my body image, or whatever feelings exist around that. No one was talking about what lies between that. And the common denominator, no matter who you are, if you have self-image issues when it comes to your body, is that you have disconnected from it. You have disconnected from your body. Now, what does it mean to be disconnected from your body? To be disconnected from our bodies means to remove ourselves mentally from what's going on here physically, to the point where we don't even understand what's going on until someone calls our attention to it, or until we're like shocked into realizing it. Have you ever seen a picture of yourself and you thought you looked one way, and you looked at the picture and you're like, who is this? Is this me? Did I really gain this much weight? Or who is that behind me? Oh, it's my butt. If you've ever had that experience That is because you have become disconnected from your body to the point where you don't even know what's going on. And it's very common. It's not your fault. It's something we're not aware of. There is something called unconscious incompetence, which basically means you don't know what you don't know, right? We don't know what we don't know until we know it, right? So until then, we don't realize what's going on. We don't realize we've disconnected from our bodies, but that's what that means. So there are a couple of reasons why we disconnect from our bodies. And those reasons can vary, but they all boil down to one of two things. In the past, at some point, we were either minimized or we were objectified. Minimization means that we were made to feel less than, we were made to feel smaller. And objectification means that we were so much in the focus that we didn't like it. So the impact of that objectification and minimization is that we continue the patterns that protect us from those things. For example, when I was younger, I was minimized, right? I was an awkward kid. I wore glasses. I was chubby because I inherited a sense of minimization in some way from the people who loved me and addressed those things with food. Food is love, right? And I was an awkward kid. So when I got to school, I was teased for being awkward, for being overweight, and it further exacerbated the issue, right? I have friends where the opposite happened, right? They had body image issues because they were objectified and they didn't like it. They were objectified sooner than they were ready. They didn't like it. And so they protected themselves by padding their bodies with food until they faded into the background again. And so what happens is if you don't really understand what you're doing, that you're disconnecting from your body, the pattern's going to continue into your adulthood. So an example of being minimized may be in the workplace where you're just like, oh my goodness, they talked over me. They didn't take my opinion seriously, or I just felt so invisible there. And if you address minimization with food, you're going to address that feeling by eating. The same thing with objectification, right? So I heard in a lot of the YouTube videos that I watched, there was a series of PhDs and talking about Black women in the community, how Black women are heads of households, and so much stress is put on Black women that they put themselves at the back of the self-care list. No, I submit that they disconnect from their bodies because of that objectification. So objectification means that the focus is on you so much. It doesn't only have to be sexual. The focus is on you so much to do, to be, to support everything that you then try to recuperate, recover, and protect yourself from that with food. I did a video called, Are You the Shock Absorber? Are you the shock absorber? Which basically means you're taking the impact from other people who will not step up in their own lives, and you're expected to compensate for those other people's deficiencies. Be sure to watch that video. But for now, that is what objectification in that sense means. So either way, being protected from objectification or minimization is the root cause of disconnecting from our bodies. So how are we impacted by that disconnection from our bodies? We are impacted in multiple ways. Being disconnected from your body may also mean that you are disconnected from your sexuality. So if you've been minimized for years and years and years, you may not even see yourself as a sexual being, as someone who is sexually attractive, as someone who is sexual, as someone who desires sex, right? So you may feel that kind of way, right? If you have been objectified in your life, you may see yourself as only that or worth only that, or you may completely withdraw from that thought and become frigid because you have only been objectified. You've been seen in that way. So that's how it can affect us from that perspective. There are tons of perspectives in which it can affect us. It can affect us in relationships and dating. Oh my goodness, I can do a whole series on just dating and the women I have counseled on dating. It's all about fear of objectification or fear of minimization that drives a lot of decisions that do not support what we actually want. Okay, so stay tuned if you want to learn more about that. Subscribe. So it can impact us in our relationships. It can impact us in our work, so many ways other than the obvious things, which is all of the health-related issues of having chronic obesity, right? So having chronic obesity, the root cause of that is disconnecting from our bodies. And disconnecting from our bodies, the root cause of that is either being minimized or objectified. So how do we reconnect with ourselves again so that we can see ourselves and feel ourselves again? So the first thing, absolutely first thing, I don't care who you are, I don't care if you've never journaled in the past, is to journal, okay? To figure out, write a letter to yourself. Say, self, when did you become disconnected from your body? And the answer is not going to come immediately. It may be so long ago that you don't even remember, but I want you to really figure it out, peel back the layers and try. Think about what happened when you were a kid and onward that disconnected you from your body. Once you figure out that point or that approximate point in time when that happened, when you started to experience chronic obesity, then you're going to be able to categorize that disconnection into either minimization or objectification. Once you're able to categorize that disconnect, then you will be able to start to recognize the patterns in your life where you are protecting yourself from it. And this is for people who have body image issues and suffer from chronic obesity. As a result, I have to recuperate by doing this thing, right? So once you identify those patterns in yourself, you can challenge yourself to do the exact opposite and say, you know what, I recognize that I'm doing this. What decision can I make that's counter to that? I've been doing that, oh my goodness, so much more, recognizing these patterns in myself, and it's been life-changing. Once you recognize the patterns in yourself, you might even be able to recognize the patterns in the people that you know and love, and you can kind of watch and kind of stand by and see how they protect themselves from it. Another thing about disconnection that I would be remiss if I didn't mention is that disconnection from our bodies signal a level of immaturity in us in that area. Now, before you start saying, I'm not immature, I'm a grown woman, I'm a grown man, hear me out, okay? I've been on this planet for a really, really long time. I am still underdeveloped and immature when it comes to food and disconnecting from my body. Case in point, and hey, you may do this too, I notice, and I always joke that when I want to, quote, sneak something or have something or eat something that is not supportive of what I really want for myself, I'll put on this like little baby voice, right? I'll say, oh, I'm just going to take a little piece of this, just a little piece, right? That little baby voice, that part of me that's not mature, that hasn't matured into a woman when it comes to my body. When it comes to my body, I have not matured. I'm still underdeveloped in that way. And so finding out where you lie in what category and recognizing the patterns is a growth exercise. It's going to grow you. It's going to make you more mature. Okay. Which is always a great thing, because when you're more mature, you can step into accountability, because again, before you didn't know what you didn't know until you know it. Once you know, you step into the next phase of what's called conscious incompetence. It's like, okay, I know this thing now, but I'm not sure how to really move through it. But once you start practicing and challenging yourself, then you start going into another phase called conscious competence. And you start getting, okay, I'm getting a little good at this. And you're going to know you're getting good at this because your body's going to start changing. So the third thing that I recommend, so the first thing was getting in touch with yourself. The second thing is challenging those thoughts and patterns to do something different. And the third thing is to reconnect to your body through movement, reconnect with movement. Reconnecting with movement means intentionally moving your body to feel how it responds in ways that benefit you, right? That doesn't mean like cutting yourself or pinching yourself or hurting yourself. It means challenging your body in a way that makes you present in the moment with it. So case in point, because I just didn't like being part of this statistic of the 4 out of 5 fat Black women, where I'm like the 4 out of 5 fat Black women you see on the street. Because of that, I was like, I like being seen as an individual, not a monolith. I went out the other day and I bought myself a fitness watch. I think it was a Garmin fitness watch, which I love so far. And I programmed all my goals in there. I'm a goal-oriented person and programmed in 8,000 steps. And if I programmed in 8,000 steps, I'm going to do 8,000 steps, right? So I walked around the lake with my husband. And as I'm doing these steps, I started to feel my body reacting. I started to get like a hitch in my hip. And I was like, oh, what's going on? It hurt a little bit. I was walking a little funny. And I got to see how my body reacted when I challenged it. That is becoming reconnected with movement. And being reconnected with movement means that you're aware of how your actions impact this thing you're moving around in. Not what's going on in your mind, not what you think, but what's really happening. Right? That intersection of fact versus feeling. You may think you can do more than you can. You may think you can do less than you can, but that's the point where you really reconnect and know. Okay. So those are the 3 things I highly recommend to get reconnected. First thing is to journal, find out when the disconnection happened, identify the pattern. Second, challenge the pattern and the decisions to protect yourself from either objectification or minimization. And the third is reconnect with movement. Okay. Now, if you like what you heard, if you want to hear more about so many ways to navigate that tricky intersection of fact and feeling that trips so many of us up, like, comment, and subscribe. If you comment, I'm going to know that you like it. I'm going to know that you like what you heard, and I would love to hear what your experience has been. If you like it, I know you like what you hear. And if you subscribe, I know you want to hear more. So like, comment, and subscribe. This is Coach Celeste Stacey, and I'll see you next time. Bye.